Namaste. Welcome to Androidiots podcast. I am Anupam Singh.
I am Tushar Gupta. We talk about what's new in Android, best practices, and how to be a better Android developer.
Today we have Shashank, who will be telling us about Android Kotlin extensions, and we have Ashish, who will act as a student and ask random questions. Okay, Shashank, over to you.
Yeah, hi guys. Today we'll be talking about Kotlin extensions. So let's begin with what's Kotlin extensions and what are there in the libraries. So basically Kotlin extensions provide additional functionality which we can create along with the existing classes. It's backward compatible, like you can write code without modifying the existing classes. Otherwise we have to change the definition of the class, and which is not proper, or we can't modify libraries and all. We can write extension method outside. So all in all, it feels natural, gives the sense that the method is present inside library, and it's more of natural feeling and all.
Okay, so Shashank, is there any difference between Kotlin extensions and the KTX?
Okay, so Kotlin extension is a language feature which is along with the given Kotlin language, and KTX is a library which Google came along in I/O and provided a bunch of extension methods and guidelines about how to write extensions method. So actually there are three parts to it. First is the Kotlin extensions, which is a language feature. You can write Kotlin extensions. Then there is Kotlin extensions, which is provided by IntelliJ itself, which include view binding, view caching, and other annotations such as parsable and all. And then Google came along and they wrote a bunch of extension method as well. So these are the three things, basic terminologies along with.
And how can we use them in our code, like in our daily, development process?
Okay, so for Kotlin extension method, you can just turn on Kotlin language for your project and start using Kotlin extension method. And next is Kotlin extensions, which are currently in alpha mode. You can include it in your Gradle file and start using Kotlin extensions. About KTX, as Google came along with different modules of their own, like core module, fragment module, and collection module. So with each of these modules, they came up with some extension. So you can include these modules yourself, and the extensions are along with it. We can include that in the show notes, and you can include that in Gradle to start with it.
So how can we write the extension functions effectively? So
okay, so
can you just so let's say I have a string class, and let's say I have to just print the I'm just passing an argument, and now I have to, let's say I want to write an equal function or something like that. So how would I write it in extensions?
Okay, so
let's say for simplest example is I have declared a string, and now I want to print the, let's say,
for example, we have to validate whether a string is a phone number or not.
Simple validation. Normal login validation.
So we have to write an extension method for a string to check whether it's a phone number or not. So what I'll do is I will write a function such as string dot is phone number. So by default, this parameter is string itself, and I'll return boolean out of it. So return type will be boolean. So what we'll write is this dot whatever regex I need to apply on that string. So this parameter or this variable is string itself. So I can test all sort of things on that. So I will write this dot matches particular regex, and if it is matching, I will return true.
So where I would be writing this function, should I be creating a new class and writing the function, or just writing string or something like that? Or?
Okay, so because it is an extension method, it should belong to a string. You don't need a class to write it. You can separately write a function in a file itself without any class. It's just an extension to a string.
Okay.
So you can just start writing a function string dot something, and you can use it anywhere in your project. So in that.
So how does it actually work? So let's say I have a file and I wrote a function to validate a, let's say, email ID, right?
Yeah.
So how would it actually work? So let's say I'm using string class at many places. So how would it actually work?
So yeah, so if you want to really check how it is used, basically what happens is it's basically a utility function. It's just sugarcoating it to it is just sugarcoating around a utility function and letting you use just with the object itself.
Okay.
So if you want to do that, you can like try using it in a Java class. Like you have mixed code in your project. You are using Java and Kotlin as well. You want to use the extensions in Java. What will you do? You don't want to write the code twice. You want to use the same extension method. So like you can specify the Java name there, and you can basically use the same extension method as a utility function as well.
Okay.
So basically it's a utility function, just sugarcoating for it. There are several keywords involved with it, like you can replace the code at the usage point. That's you can use it with inline. You can directly replace the code, or you can use it as an utility method as well. By default, it's utility methods. If you add inline keyword, then it is replaced at the point of usage.
And you also mentioned Google also released their own set of extensions, right?
Yes.
So is it an open source library, or like is a library that you can use and they have some function? What is it?
So as I told, they released Google extension functions along with their libraries. So yeah, it's open source, and you can contribute towards it.
Oh.
And they are like accepting merge requests pretty quickly, but they have a certain guidelines along with it which you have to follow, and like if you follow those, you can like make your code available along with Google, and that's a big thing.
That will be cool.
Yeah, that will be a big thing and really cool. So you can do that. So there are certain do's and don't do's. You can follow those, and like they will accept.
Example, like any example?
Yeah. So basically, what Google says is adapt a certain functionality which is already existing in Android, and like make it more comfortable or make it sugarcoat
For a developer to use.
Yeah, so like we apply padding to a view, we have to specify all the four directions padding, but we can make an extension functions where we can specify only one component, and all those four components would be provided
By default values.
yeah, so whatever the previously assigned values are, those will be assigned. We can create a method that has named parameters and like can pass value for only one parameters, and all four will be set accordingly. So that is kind of thing Google is endorsing or trying you to like create extension functions around them. And what Google tells not to do is code golfing. Basically, golf is a game where you have to score with least amount of shots, and code golfing is what you say is trying to achieve a functionality in minimum lines of code.
Right.
So accordingly, they say code KTX is not for code golfing. You don't have to like you want to reduce certain functionality. You cannot use KTX there. You cannot use KTX for specific use case, like you have a functionality you want to reduce, you want to sugarcoat it, and you write an extension function for a specific thing. They want you to write it for a generic thing which is used everywhere, and which can be like generalized and can be used everywhere. So for a certain functionality, you shouldn't write a KTX function. For example, an example is like you want to do certain things on a certain API level, and for REST API levels you want to do another set of things. So you would write an extension method for API level for, let's say, lollipop. You want to do something below 21, something else, and after 21. You would write an extension method which takes parameter as the API boundary API level and two lambdas which do certain tasks on both above and below that API. You wrote an extension method. It is working absolutely fine for your use case. And then a fellow developer comes up and he says like, oh, I want to do like for API 16 to 19, I want to do specific thing also. Now what will you do? You have to modify that extension method. So what Google recommends is you don't modify that extension method. You write it in such a way that it is generic and it requires least modification. So if you find these these functionality which are missing in Android and can be solved with Kotlin, so you can write an extension method there. And if you find such a use case, popular use case, you can raise a merge request and you might get your code added.
So where we can find the upcoming extension functions or
like what I can understand is
or something like that?
Okay, so you can go to their repository and there are feature requests and many merge requests coming along there, so you can
so we have to actively track as of now.
Yeah, so all those extension functions which are available, you can go to Google Android developer site, and they have specifically mentioned extensions functions, and you can check for particular class you are visiting whether there are extension functions available or not. And you have the extension functions GitHub repo. We can add that in show notes. So there you can go and check out what people are putting as like feature request and merge request. A very common use case of MR getting rejected is people are writing extension functions for a certain library or a certain for like support library and all. Google is not endorsing that.
So have you added an extension functions yet?
I haven't done it yet, but like I have a list which I am planning to raise.
That's cool.
I haven't raised an MR yet.
Okay. So let's summarize. So to understand KTX is like it's inline. Correct me if I am wrong anywhere. Okay, so it's inline, and we should not use for say code golfing, and there are a set of guidelines that we need to follow to raise a merge request on Google's extension function. There are three variants. We have in JetBrains version, we have our Google's version, and we have our
Kotlin extension methods which you can write yourself. So one thing I want to correct is by default it's not inline. We have to specify it as inline. So another Google recommendation around that is like you shouldn't make every Kotlin extension as inline. You should note that allocations are also made there. Anonymous class are also made there. So if class is if your method is making lot of allocations, you shouldn't write that extension method as an inline, because it will be replicated everywhere. So that extension would like those memory allocations would be multiplied by the number of users. Also, if your extension method is taking as a lambda as a parameter, so you should consider that like every time that method would be called, an anonymous class would be created. So if you make that inline, so everywhere that anonymous class would be created, rather than that if you can create only one anonymous class, that would be performance wise good. So we should make sure when we create an extension inline.
So I guess that's it. Do you have any questions?
No, that's it.
Thanks, Ajahn. Thanks for it was a very nice session from you, and we hope we'll use Kotlin extensions very soon. Right, Ashish?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thanks.